So we're taking inventory of when your business looks like this versus when it looks like this. I got this concept from Hallease, which inspired me to do this video. She's an amazing videographer here on YouTube, and she also has her own production company. And in one of her videos on her channel, she talked about how she takes on projects for her company in order to ensure that her business is making a profit. So this week, we're going to talk a little bit about profit margins. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Shanita, and on this channel, we talk about the strategies, tools, and tips to help you amp up your side hustle game, become more productive, as well as pay off your student loan debt faster. So if any of these topics interest you, consider subscribing. So if you are a user of the Stride app, you should be fairly familiar with the app, but if you're not and this is your first time hearing about the Stride app, I personally love it. I use it to track my profit margins by documenting my mileage as well as all of my expenses. So in order to see the profit margins on your app, I'm gonna walk it through with you. First thing you'll do is click onto the Stride app, then you'll tap on the word deductions, and then on the page where you see deductions, you'll see at the top the current year, and you'll see an arrow on the left-hand side. So you'll click on that arrow and that will take you to a dashboard of what your business profit currently looks like. As you can see, for the year 2021, I am not making a profit at all. In fact, I'm spending more in deductions than I am in income. And that has a lot to show for regarding the pandemic that we are slowly easing our way out of. If you want to see a different year, you can click on the previous year and it'll show you what your business profit looks like for the previous year. Because my prior videos tend to reflect a 2019 visual as it relates to this video here, I figured I would just show you my 2019 dashboard as well. So it shows the business profit and then it shows what the income was as well as the deductions. This tells you what you're going to be taxed on. So even though my income was a little over 17K, my business profit was a little over 4,000, which means that is what I will be taxed on. I'm not being taxed on the income, I'm being taxed on the business profit. And the deduction of roughly 13K is what I'm using to reflect what it costs to run the business. Then it also tells you your estimated taxes, so how much you should be putting aside each week so that when you do go to file your taxes, you have the money readily available, because DoorDash does not take out taxes for you. You have to do that yourself. So this is great because it tells you how much in taxes you should be putting aside. And so for me, I'm looking at the week of 12/30 and it tells me how much estimated taxes based on this particular drive should I have taken out and put aside. So it says $79.73 is the estimated taxes that I would put off to the side. So what happens if your business is not reflecting a profit? Well, in some cases, then that just means you don't owe any taxes because you didn't make any money. But in other cases, if you happen to keep doing that over a period of time, if your business keeps claiming a net loss for too many years or fails to meet other requirements, the IRS may classify it as a hobby. And that's what we want to avoid. And that would prevent you from claiming any additional business expenses. So as we talked about just a second ago, when you're looking at your deductions, you basically wouldn't be able to claim any of those deductions if you continuously report that your business isn't making a profit. And once the IRS determines that your business is not a business and it is just a hobby, what you'll have to do is provide valid profit motive if you want to claim those deductions in the future. So there'll be a lot of other things you'll have to do in order to justify writing off all of these expenses that you made. So let's just say we weren't in a pandemic. Still, what are some tips that I would probably give you in order to ensure that that doesn't happen to you and that you are continuing to make greater and greater profit within your business? Now, as I said before, this ideology or this concept I did not create. I just put some parameters around it to suit it towards my needs. Hallease didn't really say what the name of this theory was, but she did a great job in explaining how she applies it to her business. I'll link it down below, but the title of her video is When to Say Yes to a Project as a Freelancer. In it, she talks about the 3 criteria that she uses to make rational decisions about taking on new projects for her business. And she uses the analogy of a triangle where at least 2 of the 3 sides of the triangle needs to be balanced or on par in order for her to say yes to a project. Basically, it sounds like it's a value system that she goes by when taking on certain projects. And so I figured the same logic could be applied to door dashing or gig work. So criteria 1 on the triangle is, does this meet my minimum daily goal? Within this vein of criteria 1, does the payout exceed my operational costs? Or does the payout exceed the cost per mile? So I go over that in this video here where I talk about my car expenses. Criteria number 2, is it in your preferred zone or area? While the offer may look really great and the payout definitely exceeds the total mileage, by the time you get to the customer, you'll essentially be in a food desert, which means that in order to make a profit, you'll then have to drive all the way back to where you started in order to start seeing orders come through on your phone. In that case, you're not really making a profit because you have to spend all of your mileage and time just to get back to square one again. So in theory, it seemed great, but in actuality, it turns out to be a very bad business deal. Is it safe? And in terms of safety, I mean both health-wise and physical security. Like when we were at the peak of the pandemic, going to places like hospitals and nursing homes to deliver food to the staff that worked there was probably considered a very high-risk situation. In terms of your physical safety, you would need to use your own discretion in terms of what you deem as safe areas for you to drive and whether or not you feel comfortable with having other types of protection on you or in your car while you're doing your drives. The other factor under this criteria is, will it be time-consuming to navigate? Considering whether it's too far or whether it might be a very large apartment complex area. Criteria number 3, is it a pleasant experience? In Hallease's video, she also talks about how sometimes the benefits of doing something that has significant meaning to her own personal values makes it worthwhile to do the project despite the fact that the initial payout may not be what she preferred. Now, sometimes I find that this happens when I intentionally accept a lowball offer. That's an offer that happens to be lower than my $2 per mile qualifier, and I'll accept the order because it'll put me in an area where there's more opportunities to get better orders, thereby increasing my profit margins, and therefore that lowball offer just pays for itself. Your customer base is what's driving your profit margins. If you don't like the area that you're driving in, and therefore you don't like the customers that you are servicing, if what you are doing does not make you happy, you will see that reflected in your ratings. And your ratings is what's keeping you on the DoorDash platform to begin with. Now, I've done over 5,000 deliveries, and almost all of them have been amazing. Once you find an area that you enjoy driving in, it could be for any reason at all, but keep going into that area. Learn that area, learn the culture of that area so that your service aligns with what they already are used to. Now, if you suddenly find that your ratings have been great for a very long period of time and then all of a sudden they just plummet, consider where you were driving in the last 100 deliveries. Now, I know that there's a lot to think through the last 100 deliveries. I can't even remember that myself. On the DoorDash app, you can go to your earnings and then click on every single week and then click in the day of that week, and you'll be able to see where you went, what restaurants you went to during that day of the week. And that should help you get a more narrow idea of where you were at that time. And I would suggest you get out of that area and go back to where you were. And now that you know what restaurants you were at, of your 100 last deliveries. Then open up your Stride app and click on Deductions. Then click on the day of one of those mileage deductions. And then you'll find the map, and it gives you the location of where you were during that time frame. If you know your city quite well, you should be able to have a rough idea of where you were during that time period on that day. And even within the week, if you keep looking at all the other days, you'll find that you might have been in the same area for that entire week. And that should help you better understand your last 100 deliveries and where you were, and how to change that up. Sometimes it really is just the culture of wherever you're driving. So now that you know the first two criteria, you should have enough information to know which orders to decline. So basically, it's all orders that don't meet the first two criteria. Very small orders that don't project a higher payout once completed, or orders that simply don't meet the mileage criteria. In my opinion, an order should be $2 more than the round trip mileage. Anything less than that would need to meet the first two criteria that I've already mentioned. Now, I found that anytime I went against these three guiding principles, I always found that I did not make a profit at the end of my dash. So here's some reasons for why you may end up canceling an order after you've already accepted it, which I should caution you does affect your ratings. The first reason for why I would cancel an order after I've already accepted is poor customer service from the restaurant staff. There are just some restaurants that I've been into that have extremely toxic work environments, and no matter what, they have a staff or two that just will not join the party. The very last thing you want to do is get into it with one of the staff members, because that does infringe upon DoorDash's deactivation policy. Not only that, they do have the ability to report you on their app. So you don't want to be put in a situation where all they have to do is click a button, and then that ends up putting you in a very bad situation. So if you go into a restaurant and you are experiencing some friction, cancel the order on your app and leave gracefully. It doesn't matter how much money the payout is going to be if you are on the receiving end of possibly getting deactivated because of whatever is going on in that restaurant. 9 times out of 10, you'll get an even better offer right after that. Another reason for why I would cancel an order after I've already accepted it is if the food is just taking way too long and I've already picked up another order and it's currently sitting in my car waiting for me to deliver it to the customer. In that case, I wouldn't want to risk letting that food sit cold while I'm waiting for another order that is taking too long, because then what will end up happening is I'll get a negative rating from the customer that's been waiting and now their food is cold, and I'll also get another negative rating from the customer whose food is just taking entirely too long. So in this case, you kind of don't win either way. So it's best to just cancel the one that if you've been waiting on for quite a while. My rule of thumb is that I set the timer on my phone and I'll set it for 5 minutes. And if after 5 minutes the timer goes off and I still don't have the food in my hand, I get the heck out of there. The disgruntled customer, the customer that you just cannot please, and you know them and you can spot them a mile away, because what they'll usually do is they'll call you before you've even gotten to the restaurant. Like, you literally just accepted the order and
they'll call you and they'll be very rude, demanding to know where things are and what the status is and where you are and how long it's going to take you to get there.
They just have a litany of questions for you, and this may not be entirely their fault. It could be that there was another driver that was assigned to their order and that driver canceled on them. So now the food is still sitting at the restaurant and there is no communication from the DoorDash platform to let them know that a new driver has been assigned to this order. They just assume that you are the reason for why they're not having a positive experience, which means that no matter what you do, you're never going to remedy the situation. They're still going to be very upset even after they gotten the food, which means you're probably going to get a negative rating anyways. You can try to mediate the situation by getting a heads up on this and sending your customers text messages as soon as you get their order so that they know that you're on top of it. Or when you answer the phone and they seem very disgruntled, you can kind of talk them down and explain what may have happened. If you find that they're just not satisfied with that, then you may just have to cancel the order. So within these 3 criteria is how you can manage your profit margins. You now know exactly which orders to accept and which orders to completely stay away from, in order to make sure that you are spending most of your dash time picking up orders for people you truly enjoy delivering to and that you know you'll probably get a good payout for, and you know that you're not going too far out of your range to make this transaction happen in order for you to make a profit. If you've enjoyed this type of video and would like to see more, I put together a playlist for you of all my DoorDash tips here. Don't forget to hit the like button and that notification bell to be informed on when I post a new video to this channel. Till then, I'll see you next time. Bye.